All right, we're back here at the booth here at CPAC 2022 here in Orlando, Florida. And I'm joined with Ted Budd, who is running for Senate there in the great state of North Carolina. Now, I remember you the last CPAC we talked, and you were kind of previewed an announcement, you know, and here we are.
Yeah, that was pre-announcement, and a lot has happened since then.
Yeah.
That was, again, February last year. So great to be in the Freedom State once again.
There you go.
You know, then late April, we announced for U.S. Senate. Back in June, Trump endorsed me, and when he came to North Carolina, it's been a rocket ride ever since.
Okay, walk me back to what it feels like to have a Trump endorsement, because we know a couple candidates that we work with, as soon as they got that endorsement, they really felt the momentum and a little bit of swing in towards your campaign. Walk me back on that.
Total momentum plus a lot of work, because people are saying they're now paying attention, and they go, tell me more. So I use it to the old radio host Paul Harvey. People would say, what's the rest of the story?
Yeah.
And so I tell them, I'm for border security. I'm for getting rid of this crazy spending, which is giving us all the inflation we have now. It's devaluing people's currency. I'm, for being America strong rather than America weak, which has given rise to all these problems we're having right now, Brian. Against critical race theory and things that divide us rather than bring us together. Runaway bureaucrats that we're seeing. Election integrity. Those are the things that I'm for.
Do you think it puts a target on your back as well? Because all of a sudden you stepped out in the faith of being favored by Trump.
It really does. But you do the right things. They put a target on your back, but you just keep going. You take the shots. Even some people from the Republican Party shoot at you. We've got.
Isn't that a shame that happens?
Let's get beyond this. The Democrats have consolidated around their very left-wing candidate. Who has done joint fundraising committees with Cori Bush, in St. Louis, and it's just ridiculous what's happening here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
But we got to fight against this. We got to maintain true conservative fighters who can win not only the primary on May 17, but also the general. And that's me, and that's why Donald Trump endorsed me.
North Carolina seems to be in the headlines. It almost seems like every month for whatever reason. What are you hearing from the citizens in North Carolina? What is the most concerning topic right now to them?
Well, everyone in this country, and including North Carolina, is very concerned about Russia's aggression towards the Ukraine. I happen to have been there 30 years ago on a Christian mission trip and was able to see the other bookend of this when they separated from the USSR, and you see the devolution of the USSR. Now we're seeing Russia trying to unwind that almost 31 years later. They're also very worried about inflation. They're worried about election integrity. It just depends on who you're coming up against.
Yeah.
But we want an America strong where we don't have to deal with these problems and we get out in front of them.
Yeah. Let's talk about the economy in North Carolina. I know you've got a lot of tech companies based in Raleigh and Charlotte, in the banking system as well. What's the state of the economy right now? If you had to give an address, let's say you're the governor and you want to say the state of the state, what does it look like?
So, run for Senate, not U.S. governor.
I know, but if you were, what does it look like?
But I'm all over the state. We've got 100 counties. We've got, you have pharmaceuticals, you've got technology, you've got manufacturing of all kinds, but the biggest single industry in North Carolina, it's agriculture. It's $100 billion to our state. And, farmers, they had a great year last year. I live on the same family farm where I grew up. Angus cattle farm. It was a Tyson chicken farm. But the price of inputs, because of Joe Biden's inflationary policies and the reckless spending, is driving up the cost, and this aggressive anti-business environmental agenda is driving up the cost of fuel, which is everything. It doesn't matter if you're an environmentalist or not. You got to get places. Everything that you eat is always trucked to you. That raises the cost of trucking, the cost of fertilizer, the cost of inputs, the cost of diesel to drive the tractors to plant this. We're coming up on spring planting here very soon. And so we really got to watch out, because if consumers think they've seen inflation, if these costs get out of control when it comes to the inputs, these farmers have to just keep making a living. So again, they're going to try to cover their costs, and prices are going to go up at the grocery store.
Well, President Trump said that it would happen, and said you're going to look at $6-7 gas, and depending on where you live, that's what it is. The West Coast, it's $6, approaching $7 in certain areas. Let's talk about education, and where is that kind of what your stance and things that you need to improve in the state of North Carolina?
My wife, Amy Kate, and I, we both have our educational degrees from Dallas Theological Seminary. I'm educated at public high school and went to App State in North Carolina. So, look, we're very concerned about the state of education. What happens when you jam a social agenda into the limited hours we have to educate our next generation, our youth, is you push other things off the table. You're pushing off the STEM things, which are so important to the next generation. You're pushing off the things that they would learn in trade schools. welding, and go back to the science, technology,
Hey, when we were
engineering,
kids in high
mathematics.
school, they wood shop and auto body and stuff
I was
like that.
industrial arts president in high school.
I was in clothing and textiles, and look what I'm doing now. But that's a great point.
You're a great dresser, so I see the textiles there. That's great.
Maybe so, right? But we don't have time for that, for these social agendas in our schools.
No, we don't. It completely deprioritizes what we really need to be focusing on for our kids to make them responsible citizens as we move forward. They're not teaching them true history. They're teaching them things that divide us. Look, our national motto, yes, it's in God we trust, but our national slogan is E pluribus unum, out of many one. Why do we seek to divide? Well, you can see what the left wants to do is to divide and conquer.
Yeah.
But we got to do things that bring us together more.
Yeah. Let's also talk about taxes in North Carolina. I know that, it's getting harder to buy a house, harder for people to rent as well. What does a tax situation look like in North Carolina? What's your plans for that?
Well, it's not like Florida, right, which is paid for by sales tax and consumer taxes, but we do have an income tax, but I will say it's lower and lower under the last 10, 12 years of Republican leadership. Democrats had control of our state for 150 years prior to 2010, but after 2010, Republicans took over and we're able to incrementally lower the tax rate. So we're going in the right direction, thanks not to our governor, but to our state legislature that is Republican.
And of course, tourism is really big in North Carolina. We spoke off camera that at one point we lived in the Outer Banks, and we felt the impact of tourism in the Outer Banks. What is some of the feedback you're getting right now from people? Was the season last year good? What's the economic impact right now on tourism?
It's good, and people are looking anything that's in part of the freedom economy. If it's RVs, motorcycles, camping, outdoors, and it's a great outdoor state in the mountains, and also down in the eastern part of the state, which you're very familiar with.
Yep.
So people have flocked there, but a lot of times because of some of the very oppressive governmental maneuvers during COVID, they've skipped over. They've gone to South Carolina and on down to Florida. So we need to make sure that we are a freedom state as well. Let people make their own decisions, and that'll continue to drive economic growth in North Carolina.
Best website for someone watching us right now, because if you're watching us from the great state of North Carolina, are you a Tar Heel in North Carolina, or are you
I'm an App grad, and I'm a Wake Forest person,
okay.
But, when they're playing somebody out of state or outside the ACC, of course I'm a Tar Heel.
There you go. But if you're watching us in North Carolina and you want to get involved in the campaign, donate, grassroots effort, knock on doors,
absolutely.
pass out things, what's the best website?
Yeah, find us at tedbud.com. It's just my name, 1 D on Ted, 2 D's on Bud, tedbud.com.
There you go. We appreciate your time here in Florida, man. It's a great freedom state, right?
It's been great. Yeah, absolutely. Love being here. Look forward to getting back to North Carolina.
There you go. Ted Budd right here at the booth at CPAC 2022. We got plenty more coming up. Stick around.